It's the Working Fans Combatcast, back for another week of action. And first, here's a video.
Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you, because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want on our social medias, search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
All right, everybody, get ready. We're going to talk some combat sports. But first, Chevy, why don't we tell people what we got coming up?
All right, on May 14th, we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night Blachowicz versus Rakic. May 21st, previewing UFC Fight Night Holm versus Vieira. Then at the end of the month, there's no UFC, there's no Bellator, so we're going to figure something out for you guys.
Yeah, we'll come up with something. Now, before we get into last week's card, we were talking about the PFL a little bit before we got on, so, we forget about them. It's whatever. But they got a card tomorrow night. I mean, the first fight is Rory McDonald versus Brett Cooper, and then Anthony Pettis versus Mile Price, Ray Cooper III versus Carlos Leal, and I struggle with this woman's name, but it's Maria Maka Takatina, it looks like, and she is fighting Kayla Harrison. So this is a pretty good card.
Yeah. As far as PFL goes, it's a banger, really.
Yeah, and like you said, too, I mean, even to just stay up for like those first 2 fights, I mean, you're getting Anthony Pettis and Rory McDonald.
Right, I can't pass up a Rory fight for sure.
No. It's actually very interesting. Like, we'll get into it in a minute, but just this weekend, some of the fighters that are fighting this weekend have been around forever.
Oh, it's going to be a great weekend for fights for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit this past weekend. You got to watch some of this card after already knowing what happened, so it wasn't as exciting for you. We were talking about. Yeah. I got some vehicle issues, so I got to this late, but I did get to see this crazy Marlon Vera Rob Font fight, which was really awesome. But we'll get there. Let's do this card first. Just the main card. Christoph Jotko defeated Gerald Merchant. Did you get to watch any of this?
I did. This is the one where we were looking at records, and Merchant had like 26 wins by submission. So we both, I believe, picked him to win by submission. But Gerald he was too slow. When the fight was standing, he couldn't get Jocko down, and he basically just got dominated on the feet for 3 rounds.
So, Jocko, middleweight, he'll keep moving on. I'm trying to think, what was he? He had to win a split decision over Misha Shirkov before this, and he's I mean, if you think about it, he's won 5 out of his last 6. I'm looking now at his record. His only loss was the decision to Sean Strickland. So this guy,
who's beating everyone right now.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting. Then we had Darren Elkins, the damage versus Tristan Connolly. I thought Elkins was going to finish him here. He did get the win by decision. What did you think of this fight?
I think Elkins said it the best in his post-fight interview. He's just a grinder. He just ground out this victory with grit and determination and absorbing damage like he does.
Yes.
I think he and Tristan was game for sure, but I think he should have fought a little bit smarter, a little more technical. Instead, he kind of played into Elkins's game plan, and it looked like he got fatigued later on in the fight. And like you said, he almost got finished. So good win for Darren. I know he's just a tough fight for everyone. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you should plan to go the distance with him when you get in the cage with him, because he doesn't get finished.
No. He is the damage for a reason. Maybe someday that'll catch up to him, but it ain't yet.
He's not a young man. It hasn't caught up to him yet, so we'll see.
Then we had a third round submission, rear naked choke. Grant Dawson defeated Jared Gordon. What were your thoughts on this fight?
I thought this fight was going to be a lot closer than it was. Jared Gordon kind of just got beat up for the 2 rounds before he ended up losing. I just thought Dawson looked great. I think he's a great prospect for sure.
Then we had a guy's name I remember struggled before, but he got the win. Featherweight. Joanderson Brito defeated Andre Fili. And I thought Andre Fili would be a little too big time for him. Boy, was I wrong. TKO punches, 41 seconds in the round 1. What do you make about the newcomer?
I told you Andre Fili ain't shit. He's a stepping stone for this guy. I did think that
to be fair.
I'm just kidding. I like Fili. He's a gamer for sure, but
a little inconsistent, I think, was actually what you said. So
that's his problem. He's very up and down. In this case, he just got clipped early. Like, it happens to everyone. You could tell when it happened, he was upset, but what are you gonna do? I don't think we learned too much about Brito after this fight, and I think Fili could bounce back in his next one. So we'll see what happens going forward.
Just a situation where Fili maybe underestimates opponents sometimes. Maybe he's too relaxed in there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he should be more technical. I think he's too apt to engage in a war, and it doesn't usually work out for him. So maybe a change of camp or something would be good to revitalize his career at this point, because I don't know what his record is in the UFC off the top of my head, but it's not super great. I would say at this point in his career, he would be in danger of getting cut, possibly. I don't know how much money he's making, but it's possible. He's not that big of a fan favorite that he's safe from being cut.
No, he's lost 2 in a row, and there was a no contest in the middle of there. So he's definitely, on the cusp. A guy who's not on the cusp is Andre Avaloski. Another victory in a row, although some thought a little controversial. Maybe he didn't deserve it. But regardless, that's 4 in a row for the big man. What did you think of the fight?
Yeah, I thought I would have given the fight to Andre. There wasn't a whole lot that happened in this fight, though. It was a lot of swinging, missing, not a whole lot of damage done. We talked about this a little bit beforehand, but I believe the scoring was a little bit strange. So 2 judges scored it for Andre, obviously. It was a split decision. And the third judge scored all 3 rounds for Collier, I believe. So anytime you have a decision like that, it's a little bit suspect. But Jake is just continuing his streak of win one, lose one, as I said. So he'll probably win his next one.
Now, the big fight, super exciting fight. I got home in time to watch this. Vera and Font. Great fight. Font, tremendous output. Looked like really good. But then Vera it was like everything he was doing was hurting Font more. Like, he didn't have the same output, but everything he was doing looked more effective, and he was coming up with a wider array of attacks on his feet. He had knees, he had kicks. Font, durable as hell. He hangs in there. It looked like he was going to be finished multiple times. I think it was Kenny Florian I heard on the Annika Flory podcast. He did say maybe Font could have utilized takedowns a little bit more in this match. That might have been a big difference for him, because I did notice he did successfully pull off a takedown once, but he didn't keep doing that.
Yeah. Basically what you said, Font looked great, but he wasn't as effective. He wasn't damaging Marlon with his attacks. His output was phenomenal. His volume was great. He looked crisp boxing. He looked fantastic until about a minute left in every round when he got clipped and was about to be finished at the end of like every round. But I think more so than, a failure for Font, this is just shows how great Marlon has become at this point. I think that really he's gone to a next level because Font is, a top 5 and will, hang around the top 5 for a long part of the rest of his career. And it shows that Marlon deserves to be up in that area too, in a super stacked division. So, good on him. I'm sure Font will bounce back, maybe make those adjustments, like you said, a little bit more wrestling, but I don't think his stock goes down too much with this.
So we got a question in the comments here. Chevy, what's your go-to food for UFC parties?
Let's see. Go-to food. I'm a big fan of our friend Scott from Voluntown when he brings these fancy gourmet donuts that he picks up. I'm a particular fan of this Dunkaroo filled one that he does.
Yeah. Providence Donuts is that place,
yes,
by the way.
Providence Donuts, yes.
Yeah.
What about you, Dave? What's your favorite UFC group food?
So, I'm always a pizza fan. You can't go wrong with that. Actually, not kissing ass, but okay, so get Chevy on about. I love your wife's cookies.
Yeah, I figured that might be what the answer is. Yeah.
Does a good job. Shout out to Mrs. Chevarooney. Now, Randy got another good comment here. I had missed so much stuff going on this weekend. Big Bellator fights on Friday too, so I peeped that while you were talking. It might look like I wasn't paying attention, but I was doing some work here. Bellator 280. It's also Friday. This is going to be in Paris, France. So a 4 p.m. Eastern time. Main event is Ryan Bader defending the heavyweight title against Chick Congo. Co-main event, a guy named Alex Polizzi, I'm not too familiar with, in a light heavyweight contest against Yoel Romero. Don't know much about Danny Gowan or Benjamin Brinder, but that's right below that. And then Lorenz Larkin, former UFC fighter, against Kyle Stewart. And then middleweights open the card, Mike Shipman and Gregory Babine. I'll just make I'm interested in Larkin. I always thought he was really maybe he lacked a little consistency too, but I thought he just as a guy who could be very explosive. Yoel Romero, talking about explosive, I think
this is Yoel's debut in Bellator, right? Because his previous fight fell through, I believe.
Yeah, there were some injuries and stuff too. I don't remember if it was Yoel, but this is his first fight in Bellator. Oh no, I'm sorry. He has had one fight in Bellator. He had a split decision loss to Phil Davis, actually.
Oh yeah. That wasn't too long ago. That's right.
Congo, on the other hand, he fought last year against Sergey. I don't know. This is a Russian heavyweight, and he had a rear naked choke. So that's his last one. Before that he had a split decision loss to Timothy Johnson. Mm-hmm. Kind of the guy who's always been hard to kind of get out of there. So
I wonder if their grappling is going to balance each other out, and we just get a heavyweight striking match.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't know about if it's a heavyweight striking match. I want to say Congo because he's a more natural heavyweight, but Bader's speed could be the difference. And even though Congo hangs in there, he's chinny in the sense that he will get knocked down a lot. So we'll see what's up. We got Matt Lang in the comments here. Big Dave shouting us out. You got it, Matt. Matt Lang. Participating. Don't know what you brought to the table, but you said my name, so you got it.
Shout out Matt Lang.
Shout out Matt Lang. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I guess gun to my head, I'll pick Congo. I'll say we'll have a new heavyweight champion.
I'm going to go with Bader just based on the people he's beaten to become heavyweight champion. So,
yeah, I don't know. I
think matchup wise, this is a boring fight. But
it does. It's
heavyweight, so it could still be exciting.
Bellator's heavyweight division is kind of a mess, I think. So, but
yeah, I mean, why? Because Chael Sonnen was in the Grand Prix. Is that why you say that?
Yes.
Middleweight Chael Sonnen was in the heavyweight Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And did well.
Yeah. You did. All right. Let's get to this weekend UFC 274 card. This is a stat card. Cowboy Cerrone and Joe Lauzon opening up the show. I'm not even going to go through all their UFC records on this, just because we got so many legends in here. But Cowboy Cerrone, 36-16-2. His last win was May 2019, though. This guy's had fight of the night 6 times, knockout of the night 3 times, submission of the night twice, performance of the night 7 times. He's tied for most wins in UFC history with Jim Miller and Andre Avaloski. He's got second most finishes in UFC history. He's tied for most post-fight bonuses in UFC with Charles Oliveira, who's also on the card. He's got third most bouts in UFC history at 37. Second most wins in UFC lightweight history, and tied for most finishes at UFC lightweight history. Also most knockdowns in UFC history. And then we got Joe Lauzon, 28-15. His last fight was a win, but it was October 2019. He's got fight of the night 7 times, knockout of the night honors 1 time, submission of the night 6 times, performance of the night 1 time, and he's got most submission of the night honors in UFC history at 6, and second most finishes in UFC lightweight division. So, Jesus, like you're talking about like 2 Hall of Fame career here for guys who never had the UFC lightweight belt.
Absolutely.
I favor Cowboy Cerrone in this based off the last several years, but as brought up on the Anik and Florian podcast too, Lauzon's like Cowboy's weakness has always been he's a slow starter, and Lauzon's thing is he's always been a fast starter. So that's somewhat concerning for me as a Cowboy Cerrone fan. And I like Joe Lauzon, but I'm just Cowboy Cerrone for life here. I'll say Cerrone can weather the storm, and he'll get a win. I think someone's going out early, actually. I think this will be a first-round finish. I think Cowboy maybe weathers the storm and gets like a head kick or something and finishes in round 1. But I wouldn't be surprised if Lauzon just catches him and makes it a tough, sad night for Cowboy and gets him out of round 1 either. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to go Cowboy round 1 TKO.
Before I give my take on this fight, I just want to shout out some prelim fights real quick.
Okay.
Brennan Royval versus Matt Schnell. That's a great prelim fight. And Randy Brown versus Chaos Williams. So keep an eye out for those couple fights. I think they could be some bangers. But back to Cowboy and Joe Lauzon.
Yeah.
I agree with basically everything you said. 2 legends, obviously 95 professional fights between them. That's ridiculous, especially at lightweight where, careers don't last as long as they do at like heavyweight or something. So I'm having a hard time picking this one. Respect to the Florian podcast where they're talking about Joe starting early and Cowboy being a slow starter. I didn't think of that, but I'm just really hoping we're getting a grappling heavy fight. That everyone always talks about how great Cowboys jiu-jitsu is, and we never get to see it. And we know how great Lauzon's is. So I would just love if we got just a great jiu-jitsu match, basically. And if it does go longer in a jiu-jitsu match, if Joe takes him down early or Cowboy, they get in a clinch or something like that, I think that would be good for Cowboy because, like you said, Joe starts early. Cowboy can weather that opening, 3 or 4 minutes, first round sort of thing. I think he can get it done either on the ground or, some head kick knockout or something, because he's very capable of something like that as well. So I'm not going to be upset if either guy loses. Honestly, best case scenario, we see Joe Lauzon move on after this and fight maybe a couple more times, but Cowboy gets the win, lays the gloves down in the octagon, retires in front of his son, and goes on fucking wakeboarding and skydiving, scuba diving, wherever the fuck that guy's doing with his life these days. But I just hope it's a good fight, good war, something he can be proud of, and then he retires.
Well, we're going to one legend, a couple legends to another legend here. Mauricio Arua, Shogun, guy's 27-12 with 1 no contest. His last fight was a loss in 2020. This is a guy who was Pride fighting champion, 2005 middleweight Grand Prix, UFC light heavyweight champion, knockout of the night 3 times, fight of the night 4 times, performance of the night once. He's tied with John Jones for most fight night bonuses in UFC light heavyweight division history at 8. Fight of the year with Dan Henderson in 2011. People should check that out. And that's also in the UFC Hall of Fame. He's taken on OSP, who's 25-16. OSP has had performance of the night 7 times too. So, you can't underestimate that. What is now here too? OSP also most Von Few choke submission victories in UFC history. He's tied for second for most submission victories in UFC light heavyweight history with John Jones, Misha Cherkov, and Paul Craig. Second most stoppages wins in UFC light heavyweight history, tied with Jones and Shogun. And these two have met before, and OSP did stop Shogun. OSP hasn't fought in a while either. Since that fight, Shogun was looking a little more sharp. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I guess OSP's the younger guy here, but I'm going to go with Shogun. I'm going to say he avenges the loss and gets the win here. I just have a feeling like my gut is telling me we're not going to see a very motivated OSP because we haven't seen him in a while, and there's no reason for that. Whereas I feel like Shogun wouldn't be showing up here unless he was motivated. So based on that, I'm going to say Shogun gets it done, but I wouldn't be surprised with all the wars he's had if he gets clipped here. So I'll go Shogun. I'll go ground and pound. I'll go round 3 TKO.
Well, I don't think OSP is going to land that Von Flue choke on someone of Shogun's grappling quality. So take that out. So OSP's other super dangerous weapon, I think, is his left body and high kick. And he's quite a bit taller than Shogun, longer. So I think if he can get that working, he can knock Shogun out pretty easily at this point. But it is very, very possible, like you said, that Shogun, if he just blitzes in, gets inside that range and lands hooks on OSP, he can get him to quit or knock him out. So I think it's going to be who can implement their game plan, and ultimately, I think it's going to be OSP. Probably say like round 2, maybe he works his legs a little bit, softens up his legs, and then goes up high with a high kick and KO Shogun.
All right. Then we got, Randy asked us what our favorite fight of this weekend will be. And
this is what my thought was as well.
Yeah, this was the main event. We'll talk about the main event too, but this fight's got a lot of potential. Michael Chandler, 22-7, UFC. He's had performance of the night 1 time, fight of the night 1 time, which was the 2021 fight of the year against Justin Gaichy. He's been the Bellator lightweight world champion 3 times. Bellator season 4 lightweight tournament winner. Most submission victories in Bellator lightweight division. He's tied for most fights in Bellator history. Most stoppages wins in Bellator MMA history. Most stoppage wins at Bellator lightweight division. Most title reigns in Bellator MMA history with 3. This guy's a Bellator standout, really. Like that's where the majority of his career was. And then we got Tony Ferguson, 25-6. I wrote down myself, was on a 12-fight win streak before he lost 3 in a row. Collegiate wrestling champion, NCAA national champion, All-American, Michigan High School Athletic Association. Like this guy's got a lot of wrestling titles here. In the UFC, he's been an interim lightweight champion. He was the Ultimate Fighter 13 winner. He's got fight of the night 6 times, knockout of the night once, submission of the night once, performance of the night 3 times. He's a stud, and he's fallen on some hard times with these 3 losses, all against great competitors. And I got to tell you, my first instant reaction about this fight was Tony's going to pull this off, and it's going to be a crazy fight. And I thought about it more. It's a 3-round fight. And I think in a 3-round fight is going to be a difference for me. I favor Michael Chandler because I think he'll use that wrestling, his striking, and I think he might go up early. This is one of the fights I think will go the distance. I think Chandler pulls it off with a decision.
Yeah, I think you're right about the fact that this is a 3-round fight changes the fight for sure. We know how great Tony's cardio is. Who knows what he's going to look like though? 3 losses in a row is tough. Tony is a unique guy, has an elite mentality, but 3 losses in a row is going to weigh on him, I think.
This is a real, not to cut you off here, but I'll just add this too. This is a real crossroads fight for both guys.
Yeah. I think Chandler would be better served with the loss because his fights have been so exciting and close for the most part to the top guys. He can kind of get away with maybe one more than Tony can. I think people are going to be pushing Tony into retirement if he loses this fight. As far as how I think the fight's going to go, if Tony doesn't catch Chandler early in some darce or some sneaky darce or some weird submission when they're in a grappling exchange, I think he's going to get worked on the feet. I just don't think that he can hurt Chandler. And Chandler, with the amount of power he has and how badly Gaichy beat up Ferguson, I think you might see more of that. So I kind of hope that doesn't happen. I like both guys, but I want to see Tony Ferguson take damage like he did against Justin Gaichy. So hopefully we see a lot of grappling in this one, or Tony goes out quick. I'm gonna say we probably see. And this is weird to say because Tony just doesn't get finished, but I just see Chandler knocking him out with a powerful right hand. I'm gonna say 3rd round. Tony will last until round 3, and Chandler will catch him with the last bit of power he's got left.
We'll see. I think we're both on the page with Chandler though. Rose Namajunas, co-main event against Carl Esparza. Namajunas is 11-4. Some interesting stats I got for you. She was the Lithuanian American National Hall of Fame class 2019. She's had ESPY Award nominee for Best Fighter and 2018 and 21 Best MMA Fighter. Kids Choice 2018 award. UFC, this woman is a 2-time strawweight champion. She's had performance of the night 3 times, fight of the night 3 times, most stoppage wins in UFC women's strawweight division. She's a stud, guys. Carl Esparza is 18-6. She was the initial strawweight women's champion. She holds a victory over Rose, who, admittedly, we're just going to say was a much different fighter back then. She's got a fight of the night and a performance of the night twice on her belt, and she was the Ultimate 20 fighter winner. She's also a former Invicta FC strawweight champion. Randy in the comments, he says he had a hot take to Miro. He's picking Carla to win this. I don't see that. I think Carla is going to make this interesting with her wrestling, but I think on the ground, I think that's where Rose is going to surprise some people maybe with her submission game, and I think Rose is going to get I'm going to say she's going to get a sub, and I'm going to say round 2.
So this is their second fight, right? Carla choked Rose out in their first fight. I'm a huge Rose fan. She's, probably my favorite female fighter. But her wrestling did look a bit suspect against Zhang in their last fight, who worked with Cejudo for, I don't know, a few months before that. Her wrestling wasn't shit. So that does worry me a little bit because Carla obviously has great wrestling. But I think in terms of who's improved the most, who's added the most to their game since their first fight, it's got to be Rose. Her stand-up is absolutely amazing when she's in the zone. So if she can get in the zone, I think that Carla will have a hard time. She's a little bit shorter. I think she'll get held at range. But if she can get a hold of Rose, I know everyone talks about Rose's jiu-jitsu, but if she gets a hold of Rose and can hold her down, I think she's going to beat her up and maybe choke her out again when Rose will give up her back to try to get up. So it could happen again. I hope it doesn't, but my heart says pick Rose. My brain says pick Carla on this one.
Interesting. Against Ruben and Carla. What's up to producer Joe in the comments? Cage My IQ, he's pointing out that Esperanza has the advantage of grappling. She loves to use that body lock into leg sweeps.
Right.
Yeah,
and then in that situation, Rose ends up on her back and she has to play her guard game.
MMA math doesn't really matter, but I just have to say, I'm looking at this record here. If you look at Esperanza's winning streak, though, I'm looking at Michelle Watterson, Marina Rodriguez. There's a lot of, people that are on the way up, but I'm not seeing Joanna Jacek. I'm not seeing Weili Zhang on there. I'm not seeing Jessica Andrade. I guess that's my point is if you look at the quality of people Rose has gone on to beat, it's a big difference.
That's very true.
Yeah, we will see. This is a big step up. Cage My IQ, I want to get this in there again. As Rose has fought primarily strikers past. Again, so we'll see. I think that's where a lot of people are doing this. How was the Grease play last week? It was it's pretty good. Those people out there put on a pretty good show. Shout out to Grease. But let's move on to the main event. Ray, that's another podcast. Come on now. We got Charles Oliveira defending the lightweight title against Justin Gaichy. The highlight. Let's go through this here. Justin Gaethje's 23-3. Guy was the collegiate NCAA division All-American out of University of Colorado, and he doesn't use that wrestling anymore. But that's something he's got.
Just to stop takedowns. That's what he uses it for.
Yeah,
the Chuck Liddell Wrestling School.
Absolutely, he is a former interim champion. He has had fight of the night 6 times, performance of the night 4 times. First fighter to earn a post-fight bonus in each of their first 7 UFC fights. Fight of the year 2017, fight of the year 2021, and World Series of Fighting. He was the one-time first and only champion that later became the PFL, and he had 5 successful title defenses. He's a stud. He's one of the best. Charles Oliveira, on the other hand, 32-8-1. He's the current champ. He's got most finishes in UFC history, most submission wins in UFC history, submission wins in UFC lightweight division history too, tied with Jim Miller. Most submission wins in UFC featherweight division history. Post-fight UFC bonuses, he's tied with Cowboy Cerrone at 18. Most performance of the night awards in UFC. It's ridiculous. Performance like 12. It's ridiculous. I'm just going to stop here. This is ridiculous. So this is a guy who basically Started out as a featherweight, and he'd win some, lose some. He struggled with his weight. He was always very exciting. And then as a lightweight, he really started to make the climb, and he's just involved in a tremendous fighter. And he's a guy that back in the day, if he got caught or something, it might have been the end of the fight. Not so much now. He's been caught in his last couple fights where he won the lightweight title and where he was defending it, and he's come back in each of those fights. You can't count him out. He's mentally very strong. He doesn't break. I have a hard time not favoring him, but my heart wants to say Justin Gaichy. So for Gaichy to win this fight, to me, he's going to have to put on a very solid performance, keep it standing. Even though Bronx is capable of beating him, I feel like Gaichy is the better striker, but close, real close. So I'm going to go with Gaichy. I'm going to say it's a freaking war, and I'm going to say Gaichy finishes him round 4. And I think this is going to be a back and forth, and this is going to be fight of the night. Cage my IQ before I get you in here. How many times can the Bronx avoid destruction in round 1 with getting knocked down and almost finish? So there you go. And Gaichy and Usman train together is also another point.
And Rose.
And Rose, yeah.
All with Trevor Whitman, yeah.
Yeah, who's an excellent coach. So what do you see happening here?
So I think if Gaichy can keep Oliveira off of his back for the whole fight, like you said, he's going to be put too much pressure on him, overwhelm him with basically just violence and finish him. Probably a brutal knockout. The problem is Gaichy's a good wrestler, but his jiu-jitsu is suspect. He likes to get in close and throw those leg kicks and keep his guard up high and throw heavy shots and stuff. But the problem with that is if he gets in close like that, Charles is very sneaky and he could, they clinch up and he just jumps to his back. So if that happens, Gaethje's going to be in trouble, and I think he gets finished. But if he fights a little bit smarter, stays at just a little bit of range, use lots of leg kicks because Oliveira, he's got some skinny legs and a wide stance, so his legs are there to get hit. Gaethje has multiple finishes via leg kicks, so I think that could be a big part of the fight. I think he's going to use that, hurt his legs early, and then follow up with, his signature super heavy hooks and pressure. So I'm going to say he knocks him out round 3.
Okay. And to answer Cage My IQ's question, do you think Gaethje uses his wrestling at all? No.
Not if he doesn't have to. I think, like we said, he's more of a sprawl and brawl kind of guy. So if Charles goes for a takedown, that's his wrestling, is defending the takedown. But I don't see him going and engaging to get Charles down, because that just puts him in Charles's wheelhouse.
Yeah. All right, Cage My IQ. We'll get one more. Let's see. Gaethje needs to watch the Poirier fight and avoid those leg kicks to the side that did belongs to a Dustin. Absolutely. Yeah. And Randy in the comments too. Is Nick Diaz fighting again? Is Nate Diaz fighting again? Well, the rumor is we saw a peek into Dana White's war room where they set up some fights, and it looks like Nate Diaz has got a fight for International Fight Week with Khamzat Chimaev, if that is true. If it is true, that's just to me like, hey, we're going to send you packing. You want to get out of here? Chimaev is just a horrible, horrible matchup for Nate. I think Chimaev's just bigger. I think he's
way bigger,
better on his feet. He's a superior grappler. I don't like that matchup at all for Nate. Diaz is durable, but I think he's going to get ground and pounded, and they'll just end up stopping the fight. So,
yeah, Nate's overrated, as I've mentioned on the podcast before. So, he's going to get fucking smashed hard by Khamzat and real fast. He's going to get injured, and I don't think he'll go out unconscious, but it'll get stopped early, I'm sure.
Cage might
He's too slow. He's just too slow. He's just gonna get clipped and put down on his ass and then swarmed.
I just gotta say, Cage my IQ. If it's true, I don't get the booking. Well, I'll tell you because I know the gentleman who runs the site and he watches pro wrestling too. Don't you understand what we're doing here? Nate is on his way out, so we're gonna get the young guy over by beating this guy who has a name. That's basically what it is, and I'm almost positive. Like Nate wants out of his contract. I think they owe him one more fight, and this is going to be his fight. So
the UFC doesn't want to see you leave with a win and then go off into some other promotion.
Yeah, this would really piss him off, probably.
Or fight Jake Paul or whatever he does.
Right.
He probably gets smashed by Jake Paul too.
Yeah, probably. But imagine if he wins and then he leaves and then he beats up Jake Paul.
I mean, that would be great. That'd be so great. But yeah, that'd be so great. But I don't see any of that happening.
No, I don't either. All right, Chevy. Going to be a great weekend of fights. Why don't you tell people one more time what we got coming up?
All right, May 14th, UFC Fight Night preview of Blachowicz versus Rakic, and then May 21st, we're going to preview UFC Fight Night Holm versus Vieira. And then there's no fights on the 28th, so we're going to come up with something for you guys. We'll figure something out.
Something special. All right, guys. Big fights this week and all around. Bellator, PFL, UFC, of course. I'm excited. So until then, we'll see you at the